There are three driving needs of the human heart. There aren't two. There aren't four. There are three. I suppose I might sound a little dogmatic there, but we put a lot of thought in this, and I think you can build a case from the Bible too. Because God made us. And it behooves us to know what these three needs are. Because listen, if I'm a parent and I'm raising kids with three driving inner needs, my chances of meeting those needs are a whole lot better if I know what they are. I might meet them by accident, but it makes a whole lot more sense if we do it on purpose. So I'm going to tell you what the three needs are. All children are born needing to know they're secure. In fact, as soon as they come out of the womb and they've been checked out and cleaned up, what do? They wrap them up like a little burrito, don't they? They encase them. They take and real tightly wrap a thing. That's what they did with Jesus. They put him in swaddling clothes. The swaddle means to put him pretty tight. Why? Because they were encased inside a very tight thing, a womb, for 9 months. And so when they get out there and just flail around, that makes them feel insecure. So they tighten them up, and then you hold them a lot like that. And then you introduce more of that moving around as they get older. Well, they need to know they're secure. I'll tell you what else they need to know. That all kids need to know they're significant, that they have intrinsic worth and value. All of us adults are driven by that. And then all people, children, adults, have a third need. They need to know that they are strong or sufficient for whatever they have to face. And when we don't feel like we are, then things go south on us. Things get rough. Now, Family Matters, if you go to familymatters.net, we spend a lot of time on this. In fact, I wrote the book Grace-Based Parenting, and in this I have a chapter on each one of these inner needs and each one of the freedoms that we talked about in another question. And the best way to deal with these needs is to put a word to them that gives us a target to aim at. And the word that I think best helps us on security is when you give them a secure love. A secure love. And I'm defining love as a commitment of my will to your needs and best interests, regardless of the cost. And so as a parent, if I want to give my kids a secure love, then I'm committing my will to their needs and best interests, regardless of the cost. You know where that really comes in handy? Is when I have to discipline them and correct them. Because a lot of parents, they have such trouble with this many times because they just say, well, I don't get any joy out of that. Well, who would? I don't want to be around a parent that would enjoy disciplining or correcting their kid. That sounds like a nightmare of a parent. No, it's not a fun thing to do, but you do it because it's your job, because you love this kid, and you're committing their needs and best interests regardless of the cost. It is not in a kid's best interest to grow up to be just self-destructive and grow up and waste their life. No, I'm going to intervene in your life. I'm going to correct you because I love you. I'm not going to sit idly by and watch you waste all your potential. We're going to help you as you go. And so a secure love, and there's a lot of ways we can do that by affirming them and giving them affection, things like that. For significance, the best way to meet that inner need is giving them a significant purpose in life. God didn't make us accidentally to just basically take up space and be irrelevant. No, he gave us purposes for why we exist. Obviously, one of our purposes is to bring glory and honor to him. As not only people created by him, but people who put our faith and confidence in him and follow him. We have relational purposes to love one another and to bring the best out of each other, to be there to kind of help other people succeed better. We have vocational purposes. God has put skill sets in us and certain inclinations that we're good at, and we can contribute to the greater good and also create income to provide for the people up close to us. We have spiritual purposes in life, to be lights of the world, salt of the earth, all those things. So when we are deliberate about that as parents and building that into our kids and appealing to that into our kids feel significant. And the third area, strength or sufficiency. The word we like to put on that one is strong hope. We want to give them a strong hope. And the cool thing about our relationship with Jesus is Jesus is taking care of the future. No matter how bad the future may be, it's already taken care of us. I cheated when it comes to reading the book, the Bible. I read the ending. I went to the end, and we win at the end. You know, we win. God has the final word. And so why did he give us all that stuff? Why did he give us the last chapter of history? He says, I want you to know how it's coming down so you're not afraid and you can trust me. Don't worry. And so when I have hope, then I can take on the unknown so much better. And because I can see beyond them. I can see through them. With this in mind, let me tell you one of the biggest problems I think blocks Christians from creating a kid with a strong hope. And that is working overtime to create such a safe environment for them, a spiritually safe environment. They may sound like I've lost my mind, but track with me here for a second. God has not called us to raise safe Christian kids. He's called us to raise strong ones. There's a difference in how you go about that. But when I see fear-based Christian parents, they're already scared. And so they're creating a system to raise their kids that is just there to accommodate all their fears. Well, you're setting up your kids for either they're going to grow up to be weak, or they're going and unable to really thrive, or and intimidated, highly intimidated, or they're just going to realize that they're just at the mercy of the culture out there, and they're going to succumb, and our culture will just eat them for lunch. And no. He says, I want you to make strong kids. The church we attend in Arizona was sending a bunch of kids over on a missions trip in Tanzania, Africa. Our youngest son had done all the preparations for that and the training for that. And just before they were to leave, a couple days before they were to leave, the parents thought it would be kind of good to get together, all the parents and the kids that were going, to have a prayer time over the kids. I was speaking. I was on a trip, but my wife Darcy went with our son Colt to this, and the parents prayed over the kids. And then on the way home, Colt was real quiet, and usually Colt is pretty talkative. He was real quiet. About halfway home, he said, "Mom, I have no idea why we even bothered to come to this tonight. As far as I'm concerned, tonight was a complete waste of time." And she knew what was bothering him, but she just let him know. Why? Why would you say that? But because she was feeling the same thing. He said, because of the way they prayed. I mean, they prayed away all the challenges that are out there. They prayed that all of us would get there on time, that nobody would be late, that none of us would get sick, that all of us would be able to sleep well on the way over, that no one would have to sit next to somebody that might be too talkative or too big, that crowded, that we'd make all of our connections in Egypt, that no one would have any kind of problems with their passports and getting in, that they wouldn't be frightened by a Maasai warrior, that no animal would scare them, that no one, that the food would all agree with them. They basically took away all the challenges that we're supposed to trust God for. Well, if you're a fear-based parent, that's how you pray. And that's basically how to raise a spiritual sissy. And spend all 18 years raising a spiritual pushover. No, God says, for crying out loud. I love the way in the end of Aslan, is God safe? No. But He's good. He's good. And we trust a good God. And we say, Lord, you don't have to grease all the skids for me and make everything right. I just want your strength inside of me. I want you to show up. But the way we raise our Christian kids, and sometimes we're basically wanting to create these little country club youth groups and country club type churches, and everything's real safe and determined, and all that stuff, or write checks for all the really tough stuff and let somebody else do that. Why would we be surprised that kids grow up and say, this faith is not worth it? There's nothing I see that would make me want to put it on the line. No, what we want to do is raise kids that their life, we put that faith on the line early on with them, and they see us putting it on the line with. And that's why I think we need to raise our kids on the front lines. Now I realize this is counterintuitive to the way most Christians think. But I believe God has called us to be lights of the world. You can't be a light to the world if you don't live in it. And I had no doubt at all that the God that I love and serve would enable Darcy and I to be able to raise 4 kids right on the front lines of the cause of Christ, right out there in the thick and thin of the worst the world has out there, and they would actually make them better and stronger, and it did. Now, our home was the safe haven. Our family was where they could always retreat to, and they knew, you've got safe harbor here. Your soul is intact and it is safe here. But let's engage. Let's not, in Sunday school, I would hear people pray, give prayer requests. And you're writing down prayer requests. Pray that the house has gone up for sale. Pray that a nice Christian family moves in next to us. I wouldn't write that down. I'm not going to pray for that. I know it sounds kind of mean, but I'm not going to pray for that. Basically, you want to create a nice little Christian bubble around your house. That's called heaven. That's when we die. We get to go there. This is earth. It's under a curse. He says, light it up. When Paul established a church, he established a church in some very wicked places. Corinth, Athens, Ephesus, Philippi, Colossae, Thessaloniki, Rome. If we could go back in time and take our family for just a walk through a typical square in any of those towns, you'd think you were walking them through a porno shop. These were people that worshipped the flesh and the sex and hedonism and things like that. It was all around them. That's where Paul took those churches. Now, when those families accepted Christ and they got enough to make a church, here's what they didn't say. They didn't say, let's get out of here. Let's form a little enclave, a little parallel universe down here and start our own little Christian haven down here. They didn't say that. I said, let's light this place up. These people, this is where we were. We were lost in this. We found something. Let's light it up. And see, what gets me is how we raise our kids. And we, first of all, we don't appeal to those 3 inner needs, at least not deliberately. And then when we do, we wanted to do it in all kind of either an academic way. I'm going to teach you all this stuff, thinking you put it in their head, you got it. No, it's got to get in their heart. And so how do we meet these needs? Basically, we first of all let God meet them in us. We want to have a secure love, a significant purpose, a strong hope that comes from God. And then secondly, we basically what I always suggest people do is put these like 3 filters between you and your children. Secure love, significant purpose, strong hope. And I want every word that I say and every action towards them going through and appealing to one or more of those inner needs. And when I do that, as I appeal more and more, you just put another layer of secure love, significant purpose, strong hope. Now think about this. What if you had the luxury of starting from day one? You brought him home from the hospital, or you just adopted this child, and you're going to put this. When you think of the teenage years, what are the 3 biggest problems the teenagers struggle with? They are insecurity, feeling insignificant, and feeling inadequate. Okay, so if I'm doing this from day one all the way, look at the gift I've already given them for their teenage years. They can go through these things. They can actually feel secure, significant, and strong, and not have to succumb to all the cheap the cheap anecdotes that Satan gives to fill those things, like popularity or praise or power or control or abuse or drugs or sex or all those things. Those things don't have the pull because they don't have a void in their life that those things can fill. It just makes it so much easier. And all I'm describing here is simply treating your kids the way God treats you. This is what He does with us. Why don't we do it with them? It's called grace-based parenting.